What is up, ladder climbers? Antoine Wade here from Elevate to the Unknown, the Wave Report in nextgenheights.com. And it is Thursday, May the 21st, 2026, 7:30 a.m. Central, and we are live on the Daily Climb. Let me start with a number. Last night, NVIDIA reported earnings, and they did not just win. They blew the doors off, guys. They blew the doors off. $81.6 billion in one quarter, up 85% from a year ago. They beat every single number. Their data center business alone, $75 billion, up 92%. They raised their forecast to $91 billion, and they announced an $80 billion buyback. That is not a company growing. That is a company printing money. That's what it's doing. Now, here's why I'm opening with this on the show today. That number tells you the AI lane is real. The money is flowing one direction, and it is not slowing down. But here's the thing here. Knowing the lane is real, but knowing the lane is real does not protect your paycheck. The day that you get that email, okay? Yesterday was day zero. 8,000 people at Meta got that email at 4 o'clock in the morning. And here's what we did not cover on yesterday. We told you what happens to your career. We did not tell you what happens to your money, what happens to your 401k, what happens when that severance offer hits your inbox. And when that severance offer hits your inbox, you feel like you need to sign it right away. We didn't talk about what happens to a family in the first 30 days. We didn't talk about what happens when the paycheck stops. That is the side that nobody talks about. So today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I brought in somebody who has lived this from every angle. 25 years in human resources. She sat in the room when the layoffs got planned. She is a financial strategist, an investment advisor representative, and a mortgage advisor. And she beat breast cancer twice. She knows what it feels like when life and money collide. Y'all know her. She has been in our chats for some months. Her name is the Jamie K. Guys, this is the Daily Climb. Let's look at the data. And today, let's have the conversation that most people avoid. Now, before I bring in Jamie, okay? Before I bring in Jamie, if you are finding value in the content that we produce, I need 3 things from you. Hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, especially if you're new. Turn on the notifications so YouTube tells you when we go live. We go live in between 7:25 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. Central, Monday through Friday. And listen, this conversation today, somebody needs to know about it. Somebody needs to know about it right now. So share it with them. Okay? Share it with them. And let's do this. Let me go to my ladder climbers. You know, I always start the show off seeing who's in the house today. Since I got Jamie in the house already, you know what? She didn't bring us breakfast. So Seamus was the first person that brought us some breakfast this morning. I set up the show at 6:30 a.m. Seamus was the first person in the house. Came in and said, "Hey, Antoine, what do you need help with?" I said, "You know what? I got Jamie on the show today, and we're going to have a good show." Like, all right, Seamus. Seamus said, "Okay, Antoine, you're good to go." Then the Life of Cam came into the house. Get to see the Life of Cam. Then Jason came into the house. Then Big Suggs came into the house. Then Respect the Truth came into the house. Good to see you all. Then Gifty. Then old Monique K came into the house. Good to see you. Law Baby's in the house. Good to see you guys. Then Easy E Smile. I like that name. New, Joe Spivey is in the house. Good to see you, Joe. Andre is in the house. NC Worker is in the house. Always his child is in the house. Sean D. Nice and Sandra's moving. Good to see you all this morning, guys. We're going to have a fantastic show today. And you know, when I start the show, I got to say what's up to my people, okay? I got to say what's up to my people. Let's bring her in, okay? Let us bring her in. I've been talking for a while now, and I need to bring in my guest, Jamie.
Hi, Antoine. How are you?
Fantastic. Welcome to the Daily Climb.
Good
Now, before
morning.
we get
Thank
into
you
it,
for
Jamie.
having me.
Absolutely. Before we get into it, I got to say one thing for everybody watching. Jamie is here to teach, not to give her personal financial advice. What you hear in today's show is education. Now, before you make any move with your money, talk to your own financial advisor about your own situation. I want to make sure I say that first. Okay. Now, Jamie, for the folks meeting you for the first time, who are you and how did you end up doing this work? Good to see you this morning, too, by the way.
Thank you so much for having me. The pleasure is definitely mine. I actually am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a friend. I am a believer. And I have dealt with a lot of, circumstances and situations. Being in HR 25 years, I have helped employees grow, climb the corporate ladder. And you tell them, come to work early, stay late. You're going to rise to the top. You can be the next CEO. I sold that dream for 25 years because I really believed it. But during the time, some things that I learned, Antoine, is you could be the best employee. You can have all the skills, you can have all the degrees, and it's still not enough because when a company makes a business decision, that can also impact your life. That can impact your family, that can impact your finances, and you can go bankrupt, just like a company could go bankrupt. And so after, like you said, dealing with breast cancer and having to empty my 401ks on multiple occasions to pay for medical bills and surgeries and tests and, drugs, medicine, I realized I got to have a different type of plan. But I also realized we as HR professionals, we didn't really teach employees how to become wealthy or retire successfully. And I needed to, be on the track for that. I needed to really set out and learn how to do it. So that's what I've been doing the last 10, 15 years is learning how to educate, others, employees, myself, family, and friends on retiring wealthy. Because retiring and having to go back to work is not necessarily what we want to do. We want to retire and stay retired. So that's why I'm so passionate about this now, because I know we get to make the change as long as we put, practical steps in action and we stay consistent.
Staying consistent is very important, especially if you want to retire wealthy and stay retired. Now,
Right.
Jamie, let's start right where the market is this week. So after 25 years in HR, what actually happens to people emotionally and financially in the days right after a layoff?
The first thing is embarrassment. You feel, oh my God, what did I do? You don't want to tell anybody. Many times spouses don't even tell the other spouse for 30 days, 60 days. They go as if they're going back to work and they're looking for another job because you feel it's personal. And most of the time it's not personal. It's literally just business, as you say. But that's the first thing that happens. And the second thing that sets in is panic. What am I going to do? Like, I've got to get a job right away. And many times that actual decision, jumping to the next job, it is even more chaotic because you never took the time to evaluate what was happening or, to have a plan in place. So those are the first two things. And the next thing is if they have a 401k, give me my money right now. I need to cash it out because I got bills to pay. So those are the first three things that happen immediately. And then it's personal like trauma. So the trauma starts to begin. So the work trauma, the job trauma, layoff trauma starts to happen for an individual.
A lot of trauma. That's what it sounds like. Let's get practical. What are the biggest mistakes that people make in the first 30 days after they lose the job? Talk about that.
So that first thing is cashing out that 401k. When you cash out your 401k, that can lead to about a 30% decrease over the life of your retirement portfolio if you think about it. You just think right now, oh, this 20,000 is not going to matter, but you're going to have taxes, penalties, and then you have delayed your retirement. In essence, that's what happens. The first 30 days, also, of course, you got bills that are becoming due, right? And then we have a lot of mental breakdown that starts to happen. So it's very internal for most people because they don't know why it happened and no one gives them an explanation. So we almost start to kind of deteriorate in terms of progress that you may have already been making in your career or, just in life in general. So mentally is what it starts to break down the individual. That's what's happening.
Yep. Yep. No, I get that mentally. Now, here's what I'm seeing in the data, Jamie. Layoffs are hitting different levels in different ways. So how does this land differently on somebody like an entry level person, right? Somebody who's just come into the workplace and may have been working for 2 years, a year or something like that, versus somebody who's mid-level versus somebody who is a senior leader making good money? Because you've seen it, like your 25 years of HR, you've seen it at all levels. How does it land differently, entry level versus mid-level versus senior level?
Yeah. That's a great question that you asked, Antoine, especially because we see all three generations are applying to the same jobs right now. So the 22-year-old and the 42-year-old and the 62-year-old are all applying to the same job, whether it be data analyst, whether it be a marketing coordinator, they're all applying to the same. The short-term entry level, they're going to quickly get a job. You know why? Because their income requirements are a little less. They may not have a mortgage. They may not have daycare. They may not have a car. Their bills are less or smaller. So their demand may be smaller. Now, the mid and senior level, they have a real mortgage to pay. They're dealing with mortgage and possibly college tuition, right? And also that middle person, which is what we call the sandwich generation, they're now having caregiving for their parents. So they're in the middle having all of the responsibilities, and their likelihood to get a job is going to be just a little bit longer because their salary requirements are higher. You need a little more because you have more responsibilities. And the later executives, 40 years or 30 years experience, extremely high degrees, they have pensions. They may have had $200,000, $300,000 salaries. They are going to be out of work much longer for a couple of different reasons. Those interviewing them may have a little bias to their ability to, grind it out and work, 60 hours a week. There's also a little bias in terms of the salary income because they're going to have a higher demand as well. And now they're also dealing with the medical side of things. They're needing medical insurance. They're going to need healthcare coverage. They're going to need benefits. So the package for them is going to be higher in demand, and companies may not be willing to pay it if I can get someone younger to do the same job. And I think I'm going to get it done quicker, possibly, but I can pay less. So each of those age ranges or, career levels, early, mid, and later, they're going to have different experiences. And guess what, Antoine? They might be in the same household. So we all go out and we all apply for the same job, and only one of us comes home with it. What happens in the household then?
And if you think about it.
Exactly.
Well, if you think about it, Jamie, right? Like what I'm seeing and what I heard you say is like this, right? The older you are, the more impact it's going to have because one, you're looking to replace that higher salary and that's going to be harder to do. And not only that, you're going to be dealing with things like could be age bias, could be culture bias, whatever it is, right? Let's just say it's a young company that you're applying to. It could be age, it could be culture, whatever the situation is, right? Salary, all of that. You have a lot to deal with. And not only that, the pressure of being a high earner in your house and what your lifestyle has adapted to because you were a high earner. Mid-level, it's going to be tough for you as well, but probably not as tough. Or let's just say just a little bit different than what a senior person would experience because you are in the middle of your career. You probably don't have as much of the responsibilities as somebody on a senior level if, you went about it almost the same way of, marriage, kids, house, all this other stuff. And then at entry level, it's almost as if they don't have that much responsibility. So it's going to be a little bit easier for them. But in their minds, it's going to be hard for them as well, too, because they're looking to grow within their career. And this is a stop to that. And although they don't have potentially the mortgage and the kids' responsibilities, they do feel that they are being left behind potentially by not having a job and being laid off and being impacted. So one of the words that you used earlier was trauma. They all three different cohorts experience trauma in some different ways.
Exactly. Exactly. And what happens when you were the breadwinner, the provider, and you can no longer provide? Due to no fault of your own, just the universe and the world and technology and life changing. But you did everything that you were supposed to do, and that's still what you'll feel like was not enough. The mental breakdown starts again.
Let's get into a part that nobody talks about, Jamie. And nobody does a good job of explaining. I think one of the things you said earlier was when you were in HR, you felt as that you may not have educated people on how to get rich and stay rich. Yeah. And that was maybe not your place in HR. But let's talk about the 401k, because this is something that most companies give to their employees as an opportunity for them to save for their retirement.
Right.
When somebody gets laid off, what actually happens to the money in their 401k? And why do so many people make the costly mistake with it?
So it depends on what your company is going through, actually, Antoine, because sometimes you may not be able to access it. If you think about if a company is going bankrupt, the 401k may be going bankrupt as well. Because the funds could be comprised of the company stock. So if your entire retirement is your company's stock and your company goes out of business, then what will happen to your 401k? It will also go out of business. But a lot of times in HR, we don't teach them to look at it because, like you said, that's not necessarily that person's job. That may be the fiduciary or the person managing the 401k program. And because of that, they're working Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So when employees get off from work at 5 o'clock, who do they have to talk to go over their portfolio? And most of the time, those are just administrators. They're not fiduciaries or investment advisors that are able to give that specific type of advice. So we may say just contribute, or you'll get an automatic 3% contribution. But the 401k, Antoine, was never meant by itself to be the full retirement. There was a component of pension or Social Security, and then there was also your personal savings. So you actually had like a 3 to 4 leg table in which you're supposed to be able to sit upon once you retire. And our original development of the Social Security was 18 persons working for one person to get a Social Security benefit. So if you transition from 18 people working for one person to now 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day until 2031, 2032, who will then be working to pay for the 401ks of those persons that come after them, or I'll say the Social Security portion. So if you're now just only dependent upon your 401k for retirement, you're going to be short. You're going to have a shortfall because you're going to need multiple legs. You're going to need additional savings. You're going to need additional investments in other places. So we've just not done a good job of that. And I think it's because we just never planned or prepared, the working generation for this transition that was going to occur.
Talk about this, Jamie, because one of the things you said that people make the mistake of is withdrawing from their 401k. Talk about the penalties and stuff like that that exist when they do so.
So the 59 and a half, the good thing knowing this, around 2008, with the administration, President Barack Obama was in place at that time, we created what was called a in-service distribution, which at 59 and a half, you are able to roll out the portions of your 401k out of that company's particular retirement plan, and you can put it into something a little safer, right? So it's not taking as much risk in the market as normal. So that is a good thing. However, if you're not 59 and a half yet, and you get laid off or you leave the job and you have a 401k that you want to access, you're now going to get the 10% penalty of the early withdrawal. That's what that first 10% comes in. And you'll be paying the taxes on that. For some people, that could be up to 30% taxes that's due on those monies that you withdrew because you're taking the payment. So you're going to now pay the taxes. Whereas if you would leave it into your retirement portfolio, your 401k account, you're not paying taxes on it until you actually retire. But you're also missing the compounding interest. That's the main thing. So if you withdraw early 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, you could have had another 10, 15, 20 years of compounding interest. So you're going to lose about 150, 130,000, just depending. You can lose that much because you've missed out all of the doubling periods that the compounding interest would have been helping to add to that balance.
Yep. That is so. It's a financial mistake, a big mistake. Is there a time, Jamie, where you think that it is okay to do a withdrawal out of a 401k from a layoff perspective? Is there any times that you think that it's like, all right, this is a must go, or yes, you can do it, or something along those lines?
So here's what I would say. You sometimes, if you needed to borrow against it for getting into a home, potentially, that could be a good benefit. If you have a huge medical need, right, life-saving, I can see if you want to stay here and save your life, you may need, those funds for surgery. I see that makes sense because if you don't save your life, then you won't be here. So the retirement portfolio wouldn't matter, right, to you. If you have a plan and you can develop a plan that if I withdraw these funds and within 60 days, either I've done something, strategically, I've gotten another income opportunity, I'm able to put the funds back, replenish them. Now, potentially, we have a plan. We have a strategy in place, right? So we have a 2-month window in which if you needed to access those funds and, without a shadow of a doubt, with hard work, determination, and an aggressive plan, I can replenish my account. Now we won't have the penalties because you'll have a 60-day window if you make those withdrawals to put those funds back into that account. So you just have to have a plan, though. So the plan is not withdraw it and then this is going to pay my bills for 2 months. It has to be I'm withdrawing it and it has an attached purpose and intention behind it.
Yep. And I think that's very clear that you need to have a plan. Now let's talk about the severance piece of it, Jamie, because that's another thing that people don't talk about as well. Like getting that severance offer. Like the email comes. So Meta's emails were sent at 4 a.m. local time where it happened. I think the first place where it happened at was Singapore. So the email comes. There's a severance agreement attached. And it feels like you got to sign it pretty fast. Should people sign it right away or should they slow down? What do they need to look at first? Give us some insights there.
So depending on your position, a lot of times in high executive positions, you may need to have a personal attorney review it because you actually may have a non-compete clause. So if you having a background in sales, you understand going from one company to another and having the potential to take the entire client base with you, but that could be your bread and butter. So just think about a sales executive going to another establishment and 200 clients say, hey, can I come where you are? And he says, no, I'm not going to be able to help you. I got to wait 2 years based on my severance agreement that I signed. But the severance agreement, what if that's not more than what your compensation would be for signing on with another organization? And then also you have to think about, will this put me in a position to not be able to work at the company again? Because some severance packages, they say you won't be able to work for the company again in your lifetime. So is it worth it? You really have to look at the numbers and just see what the expectations would be for you. But I think an attorney definitely would be one to consult in that matter because you need to understand what are your legal responsibilities. What are your legal responsibilities? Equipment, is there surveillance after a certain period? We don't think about those things, but I mean, they exist. And then NDA.
How does it different also, Jamie, from, you mentioned senior, but what about somebody who's like entry level in that situation? They just, sat the company for 2 years and they just got that meta severance package. Like, what do they need to think about during that time?
So I think for them, it's how quickly is this going to help them move on to their next phase. You understand what I'm saying? Because sometimes if you've not signed off on a severance, then you may not get your last check either.
Mm.
So you may have some things that are held up, and those funds might be the only funds that they have that's available to them. So they may feel obligated, in order to do so. And that's a lot of times what the severance, it does make you feel like there is an obligation. Also thinking about if you're in the interview process with another organization, communicating to them the severance, because sometimes they may not want to be in competition with your previous employer if you've not yet decided to cut ties. So that can also be another implication. Your severance also, depending on in your state, how it runs with your unemployment. Sometimes your unemployment will not start until your severance package dates have ended. So if you're getting severance for 18 months, your unemployment may not start until that ends, but it doesn't begin until you sign the paperwork as well. So those are the things that, one has to think about too. How soon do I want to get back to work? How long do I want to be delayed with getting my, unemployment? Because the unemployment, what if that's more than what your severance would be?
Never thought about that. Never thought about
Right.
that. You teach something that I want everybody to hear. I came across your website and you got a framework called Reset, and it is for people right after a layoff. Walk us through it. What does Reset stand for, and why does it matter?
So Reset, the R stands for remember who you were before the layoff. Beyond the job title, in spite of the job title, you've got to really take inventory, self-inventory. You are somebody, you're special, you're smart, and you're a creative being. You have to remember that part. The second E, the E stands for evaluate. Evaluate your finances. Like, do you have a 401k there? If you do, how do you get it? How do you access it? How do you roll it over? How much is my monthly expenses coming in? What do my finances look like? And how long will I be okay in this layoff? Like, you really got to start. You got to take the inventory. The S is strategize. This means don't just get out there and just go get a job. Don't start applying for jobs the next day. Think about, when I was in this job, did I feel fulfilled? Did I feel it matched my skills, my abilities, my talents? Did I feel like I was supposed to be there? Did they really want me there? And what do I want next? And watching your show, The Wade Report, you talk about getting new skills. So when you're laid off, as part of your strategy needs to be, do I need to learn AI? Do I need to learn some engineering skills? Do I need to take a trade? Do I need to become a plumber, an electrician? What do I need to do to, transition so I can, continue to have income? So that's part of your strategy. The next part is E, execution daily and discipline. So a lot of times when people have layoffs, it just flips their world all the way upside down. But if you worked out, had your cup of coffee in the morning, you meditate, and normally go about your day, you need to include that with this layoff process. So still work out, still have your coffee, meditate, and take 1 or 2 hours. You're looking for jobs, but you're networking in this process. Who's hiring where? Who do I know that knows someone there? Let me send a direct LinkedIn message. Like you say, let me do targeted job searching, but you have to execute daily and with discipline and consistency. And then the last letter is T. The T is trust the transition. Trust that this is happening for you, not to you. Trust that you are going to land exactly where you are supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, when you have done all the other parts, when you have remembered who you were, when you have evaluated where you're supposed to be, when you have strategized, when you have executed with consistency and discipline, and when you have trusted the transition.
I love that, Jamie. That's a perfect place for me to do one quick thing. So I love the fact that you say strategize for the S and then E for the execution. Because here's what I know. For the lateral climbers who are watching this show, Jamie just showed you how to protect your money after a layoff. But there's a second question. Once the money is steady, where do you aim next? Most of the people are not stuck because they don't work hard. They're stuck because they don't have a target. You don't need more motivation. I can't even say the word right now. But you basically need a target. And that's the piece that Jamie said that resonated with me is like strategy. And that's exactly why I built the Career Clarity Audit. There's 2 tiers. Most recommended one is tier 2, the audit plus the exit plan. It is a $497. You get your target roles with real salary ranges, your positioning statement, a 7-day action plan, and outreach messages written for you. Your LinkedIn about section rewritten as well too, so that you know what, it takes the execution, it takes a little bit more off the execution that you have to do because it's already written for you. And you also get 8 to 12 resume bullets rewritten for you as well in a 90-day exit plan so that you will make sure that you are leaving at the right time. The real market value for the Career Clarity Audit plus the exit plan is $3,450. You pay $497. It is an 86% savings. Now, if you want just the audit in the target itself, tier 1, $197. Both delivered in 24 hours in a Google document in PDF, no calls. And the guarantee is this: if you cannot say within 48 hours that you know exactly what role to target and what to do that week, I refund you 100% plus $50 for your time. I had a client named Toria. Guess what she did? She put Calibra in her LinkedIn as a header. It was a search beacon. She landed at Progressive, a 30% raise, 100% remote job. They canceled every other interview after she interviewed. Those are her words. Okay. This is her exact words in her email back to me after receiving the Career Clarity Audit and the new job. I would not have been able to secure this role without the Career Clarity Audit. Go to nextgenheights.com/career/clarity/audit. All right. Now, Jamie, let me bring this home. A lot of people watching are in their 40s. I do a nice little demographic on my show. I can see what my audience looks like, and got 25, 34, 34 to 44, and then 54, and so forth. Right? A lot of them are in their 50s, and after a layoff, or a divorce, or years of taking care of everybody else, they feel behind. For somebody who feels financially behind after a setback, is it too late to recover?
That is an excellent question. And Antoine, the answer is no. This is the reason why. We think that retiring is, 65, I'm going to retire. We think it is a number of our age. We think it's a number, but it's not our age. It is our finances, which means you had the opportunity with discipline, structure, consistency to build your portfolio in a way, contribute to your retirement so that even when you get to 65, even if you only have 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you can still build a portfolio to a place that's going to be comfortable for you so that you can stay retired successfully. So it doesn't matter what age you start, but what you do have to do is make some changes. You're going to have to reduce the spending, right? You're going to have to not be a consumer of the things that you used to, and you may have to go into more of a necessity mindset. So you're not too late. You just have to make the change, and then it's up to you. Because some people say that they want to be wealthy, but they don't want to do the work that it requires.
That's that discipline part. That's that discipline part. That's the strategy part. And that's the execution part that I see on a day-to-day base of people's wants versus what they actually need to execute on. Is, people say they want to be wealthy, but do they have the discipline and the execution to do that? And one thing that I've learned too, Jamie, is as I get older, I think we almost consciously go to what are the things that are necessary anyway. So the goal seems like it should be to try to figure out that part of it that is so early on in your career so that you won't have to worry about that so much a little bit later in your career. Any advice around that, right? Because you think about it, right? You get older, you always start to think about like your health and how much weight you put on, and you kind of go back to eating simple foods and not all the extra stuff, right? You change your diet and all this other stuff because you know you only have a certain amount of time left on this earth. When you're younger, you don't think like that. Is there like anything that you've come across to where you've been able to, educate individuals on like how to get to that place early where you realize at a younger age, especially when it's related to finances, that you don't want to be in a certain place when you get to your 40s and 50s, or you want to be well ahead of it? What can you give us some insights on that?
So I'm going to say two parts. So I'm going to say in the 40s, I would ask you, based on what your lifestyle is right now, when you retire, would you want it to be the same, less, or better? As a 40-year-old, you'd have to think about that, because based on what type of lifestyle you want to have into retirement, how it compares to where you are right now, that's going to make the decision on, that's going to help you make decisions on the choices that you make from now until then. As a 25, 26-year-old, I would say to them, of all the people that are around you, that you have access to on a daily basis, is there anyone whose life you would like to have? Is there anyone who's living the way that you would like to live that is in your circle? They may say, oh, no, because I said, well, you need to do something different than what they did if you want to have a different life than they had. And then I would say, who is it that you emulate? Who do you want to be like? What type of lifestyle do you want to? Oh, I think I want to do this. I want to be like that, but I want to have the things that person. So you are going to need to put yourself in the circles and surround yourself around the people that have the life that you would like to have. And you have to do what it is that they're doing. They're doing skills. They're getting new skills. They're acquiring new skills. They're investing more. So you're going to surround yourself with people that are where you want to be, who have what you have, and who has a lifestyle that you would like to have of your own. But if you're in your mid-40s, you got to make the decision, what type of life would you want to have later? One that's the same, one that's worse, or one that's better?
You said something early on that I absolutely love. You said retirement is not an age.
Not at all.
It's a financial position. Like, I know what you mean by that, but tell the audience what you mean by that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's your financial independence number. So this is the number that represents the amount of money that you need to have saved so that when you retire, you have options. You don't have to go to work if you do not want to. Now, that number could be 6 million. That number could be 2 million. The goal is to get to the number as soon as possible. So whether you get there at 35, if you get to 35 years old and you have $40 million saved, are you going to work to 65? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. But guess what? You may have an option to do so. Now, if you get to 62, Antoine, and you have $0 saved, and if your Social Security looks like it may be $800 a month, do you have the option to not work? Probably not. It's not optional for you. Working will be a requirement. Retirement will be delayed. So your financial independence number is the number that's going to set you free. And it's the number that lets you know you now will have options. You may never get there, but what we try to do is help people to understand what that number is. And in order to get to that number, we look at what type of lifestyle would you like to have in retirement? Do you want one that is the same as what you have right now? Do you want one that is better, or one that's a little subpar? Based on that, and based on how many years you have to get there, now we got to see how much contributions are you willing to make towards that. So it comes back to your own discipline and your determination, right? And what are you willing to do to be on track?
I love that question. I love that, right? Like, what do you want life to look like now? And for me, it's so interesting, right? Or what do you want life, or what do I want life to look like when, I get to that age? And I don't know yet, right? It's like, right now life's good. And I'm like, all right, and one thing I realized though is that I want my kids to have a massive place that they can come home to, right? And
Okay.
that I can spend as much time with my grandkids and that sort of stuff. So of course that's like a major financial position to be in,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I'm doing all the things that I can do right now to make sure that I'm contributing to those numbers and get there. But I love the question, right? Because, I think about it, I'm personally put myself in that position and I'm like, wow, like this is what I want life to look like. And you can almost start creating that picture and almost start to make you think about what that financial goal is. And
Yes. And guess what, Antoine?
what's that?
If you don't choose, life will choose for
You
you.
ain't lying. So I'd rather choose it. I love that. I love that, Jamie. All right, two more. And these are for everybody that's listening right now. If somebody was watching, took just one financial action this month, Jamie, to improve their future, what should it be?
They got to get clear.
Mm.
Antoine, they've got to get clear. They got to get clear on where they are right now. This is individual work. This is individual assessment. This is personal inventory. You talk about that all the time. Personal inventory. You know the skills you have and the skills that you don't have. And when you look around and you see what's happening in the world, if there are additional skills that's being required and you don't have any of them, your personal inventory meter should say, I need to go and get some.
Mm.
You need to get clear on what your finances are, what your finances need to be to sustain the life that you currently have, and what are you going to do to make sure that you can attain that. This is not just retirement or 401ks for the ones you have right now. What happened to the ones you had 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Where are they? What happened to them? But getting clear is going to be the number one thing that people need to do. Because if you don't know where you are right now and where you stand to be in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, life will make the decision for you. Just like you said, life will choose for you. And it may be you not being in your home. You may not be able to drive the car you have. Life will make the decision for you if you don't choose.
Mm. So why not make the choice yourself?
You
Why
gotta
not
make sure, and you
have as
gotta
much
get clear.
control? Absolutely.
Mm,
I love
you
that.
gotta get clear.
Clarity.
Clarity.
Last one, Jamie. For the person watching this who got that email this week, got the email from Meta 4 o'clock in the morning, or if they're just coming across this video because, they got an email from Intuit. I have a text message from one of my ladder climbers who watched the show and was at Intuit for a very long time. And on yesterday, they announced that they are laying off 17% of their company. That's a large number. For the person watching this who got that email, who's scared that they're next, what's one thing that you want them to hear right now?
I want them to understand that this layoff was not about you.
Mm.
This was not a representation of your value. You still have value and you have purpose.
Mm.
You got to get clear to understand what that is and know what to do with it. I want them to remember who they are. I want them to evaluate their finances. I want them to come up with a strategy to take their next steps and what is going to be in alignment with them in their life. We need them to execute daily and consistently and with discipline, and trust this transition and trust that this layoff is just taking them to the next place where they're supposed to be.
Mm. Mm. I like that because One of the things I've always heard people say is things don't happen to you, it happens for you. And in the situation where individuals are laid off, right, this is an opportunity for people to gain that clarity, to potentially do the things that they've always been sitting on the back burner because they've invested their time and efforts into somebody else, into some company.
Exactly.
This is why, I love, Mellow's book, right, is I Am the Invitation. And the things that she talks about into that book is, how she invested in so many other people and so many other things. And it's time to show up for yourself. And sometimes these layoffs really give us a reflection of how to show up for ourselves.
That's right.
And that's powerful. So thank you for sharing that, Jamie. And now, knowing what to do is one thing, and actually doing it is another. Yeah. And that is the whole reason that the Heights Inner Circle exists. So guys in the video audience, in the chat, having a good time, the Heights Inner Circle exists because it is a private community. It's a private community of ladder climbers like Jamie. It's a private community of ladder climbers like Mella and Cam and Suggs who are building. Every week we break down what's going on in our lives. Every week we break down what we're building. Like we talked about today. We share moves that are working and keep each other accountable. Conversations exactly like this one with Jamie. This is what lives inside of the Heights on Patreon. If you want to see, go to patreon.com/Black Heights. Link is in the description. All right. So before we let Jamie go, Jamie, tell the people where to find you and what Women Retire Wealthy is all about.
Yeah. So Women Retire Wealthy is an educational platform that I developed so that we can guide professional women from financial survival through to strategic wealth. And we do that through proper planning, protection, investing, and ownership so that their money matches their purpose, not delay it. So we provide strategies, tools, and tips. And just like you said, I can't give everyone personal financial advice today, like on the call, but what I've created is a workbook that'll allow you to assess your finances, where you are, your 401k, and what you need to do to be on track. And so I've created that resource, and it's available inside of womenretirewealthy.com so they can get clear, set up a plan, and then book a clarity call to dive deeper and to get clear.
I love that. Guys, go and check out Jamie. Support Jamie at womenretirewealthy.com. The link will be in the description of this video. I will also have a pinned comment of it in this video. She showed up this morning. Now it's time for us to show up for her. There was many people in the ladder climber community that was asking about Jamie, and I sent them her way already. Guys, go and check her out. womenretirewealthy.com. womenretirewealthy.com. Link is in the description. It will also be in today's newsletter as well. Okay. Let me bring it all together, guys. Let me give 3 takeaways that I've taken away from this show. Takeaway number 1. A layoff is not just a job event. It is also a money event. You got to protect both. Okay. You got to protect both. That's why we talk about career insurance on this channel often. And career insurance is protection for your career as well as protection for your money. Takeaway number 2. Don't rush your 401k and your severance. Both of those actually reward patience. What I heard from Jamie is that if you're rushing to take money out of your account, you're going to be losing out on opportunities of hundreds of thousands of dollars because you rushed to take from your 401k. Okay. Also, I heard that don't rush to sign a severance. Potentially have a lawyer review it. You don't know what's in it. Could be a NDA, could be a non-compete, could be a whatever else is in it that can stop you from building onto your career and allow for you to separate like you want to separate. Reward is the patience. Get a professional set of eyes before you sign or before you cash out. Takeaway number 3. This is also what I heard. Okay. And this was a good one that Jamie talked about. Retirement is not an age. It is a financial position. You start building that position today. I want to retire with my family coming in to see Grandpa, the old man, one day. I want to retire where the work that I do is coming on to YouTube or whatever platform exists then to continue to educate. Working on that right now, building that position right now. It starts today, right where we are. I love that Jamie said that. It's not a retirement age, because a lot of times we go into these conversations thinking that's going to be an age. 65 years old, that's when you can retire. It's a financial position. You can stop doing the work that you're doing right now if you're 35. If you've done a good enough job of being in a good financial position. And you can start building that position right now. Guys, tomorrow on the show, we're going to grade the week. What hit, what missed. I know Walmart, I believe, was actually going to be releasing earnings. If they haven't released earnings this morning, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Intuit layoffs of 17% that was announced on yesterday. We'll talk about wherever the market is going right now, the Fed, and how they have their first meeting sometime in June and how that impacts your career. If you got the career side figured out, but you don't know what road to aim at next, that's why we do the career clarity audit. $497 for the audit plus the exit plan. $197 for the audit, and both of them are delivered in 24 hours, no calls. Okay. Check out nextionheights.com/career clarity audit. Link is in the description. And before you guys get out of here, hit that like button. Hit that like button because you got some really good education from Jamie today. Hit the like button because you got some really good education from the Daily Climb today. Smash the subscribe button if you are new. If this is your first time coming to this channel, hit the subscribe button. Turn on notification bells. Okay? Chat with somebody in the chat. Have a good conversation. The Ladder Climber community, we're all polite. We want to see you win as well. So have a conversation in the chat. We are live every single Monday through Friday, every single weekday, 7:25 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Central. We climb together. At the end of the day, you can't control the market, but you can position yourself forward. And Jamie educated us how to position ourselves forward. And one of the biggest words that she said was having clarity. And after today, you should know how to protect your money while you do. This is a Daily Climb. See y'all at the top. Keep climbing. And Jamie, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and blessing us with your insights and your education. Anything you want to say to the Ladder Climbers before we get out of here?
No, I just like to say thank you so much for having me, Antoine. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I really think that tuning in with you and to you, everyone really gets an opportunity to see how they can improve and how they can grow through this transition. Your retirement, like you said, it's not an age, but the next 20, it starts right now. And that's what everybody needs to know. It starts right now. No matter what happened before, no matter what you don't have saved, start right now and be intentional.
Start right now and be intentional. And we'll leave you guys with that. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye-bye. Great job, Jamie. Good stuff, man.